Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Fielding, and I'm the founder and executive director of Red Berets Medicare for All. And I'm a board member of Whole Washington, and I'm here to share why I am organizing with March for Medicare for All, m4all.org. I'm really excited that over just a few months' time after being reached out to uh, by some of the core first organizers, grassroots organizers of March for Medicare for All, that I decided to join them. And now we are organizing here in Seattle, and I believe we're in 30 cities across the United States. Standing up to demand national improved Medicare for all as a grassroots coalition. Um, yeah, so we all have a healthcare story, and my and usually many of our stories are, complex and multifaceted. I have insurance. I'm a veteran for peace, and my husband actually retired the U.S. Air Force after 21 years. So I am an organizer and a person who will never have to worry from this day forward, and haven't had to for many years uh, because we have health care through the VA, and for myself, TRICARE. So, um, but it was through the lens of the military that the seeds were planted for when and how and why I would become a healthcare justice organizer and activist. And that was while we were living in stationed uh, at RAF Lake and Heath. We were there for 7.5 years, and I was studying craniosacral therapy and biodynamic massage. And many of the people that I was going to school with and learning from over the years asked me how we could stand to serve a country that leaves so many people behind. And this was a eye-opening, um, shaming, or at least that's, I was ashamed because first of all, I just hadn't opened my eyes to the atrocities of our system, having been, middle class, and I don't have a childhood recollection of not being able to go see a doctor. So the United States is, our culture is very, or the powers that be rather, have been very effective in hiding the atrocities of our system, which really boils down to 68,000 Americans dying in our country every single year, all for the sake of protecting the profit motive. And this is something that, when you have had a relatively privileged upbringing, you aren't aware of until you open your eyes or something leads you to get that information. Because as everyone that's watching this probably knows, you won't get that information from the corporate media. So somehow this has to be brought to the masses, and so I'm really thankful that we have so many strong rising up grassroots independent media partners who are also working to amplify and are going to be covering the March for Medicare for All, because we need to find a way to bring this out to the masses. We have to stand up right now, and that's why on July 24th, we're all coming together to do that. The second thing that I will say about my own personal healthcare story uh, is that, no, I want to say two more things, but I do want to kind of keep it brief. As I mentioned, I am a holistic healthcare practitioner, and I was mentioning something online the other day about having received a massage for the first time in too long, because self care, even though I am a holistic healthcare practitioner, is something that I need to do much more of. And then, of course, one of the comments was, I have never received a massage. I've always, from the time growing up, I've seen this as, something that privileged people or people with money could do. This is very true. We do have a society where the overwhelming majority of people, more than likely, or at least many, many people, have not received that work, and it's even sold as pamper yourself, go out and spoil yourself. So this is something that is only for people. It's only available to people that have disposable income, and if people can't afford their insulin, and they can't afford their medications of any kind, and they can't afford their co-pays, co-insurance and deductibles, how they they can't come see a holistic healthcare practitioner. And I want to also say something about the link between uh, big pharma and holistic care. We need to open everybody's eyes to the fact, for example, that if they could come to see me and receive craniosacral therapy, if they suffer from migraines, for example, or some kind of headaches, just as one example, or PTSD, there's really lots of examples I could give. Um, Perhaps they wouldn't be entirely reliant on medications, because this form of holistic work is very, very effective at treating migraines and other types of headaches. But of course, the whole system wants us to be beholden to the insurance lobby and to pharma. They want us to be hooked on their medications, their prescriptions, and not have, I don't even like to use the word access, but not have the ability to go see other types of healthcare practitioners. So that's point number two. And lastly, something probably definitely the most personal thing that I will share about my own healthcare story, and this has happened recently. For the overwhelming majority of my adult life, I have suffered uh, addiction. So I have abused alcohol over the years, and it had become really, really problematic. But I had never sought treatment for it until it was 1 year on. Well, here we are in June, almost the end of June. So I just passed 1 year of sobriety. I finally decided it was time to take that step. And again, because we have insurance, because I have TRICARE, I was almost all of my treatment, both my inpatient and my outpatient, which was almost a year's worth of recovery outpatient treatment, Zoom classes, that was almost all covered. There was some out of pocket expenses, but it was almost all covered, or the overwhelming majority of it was. So, I want to draw this correlation to people that the United States military is not, it shouldn't be used as a jobs, a housing, an education, or a healthcare program. Um, that shouldn't be why people enlist, and yet it is why a vast majority of people are enticed or forced to take that path. So these are, for me, within my messaging and what sort of was behind my thought process in founding Red Berets Medicare for All, was that we need to fund healthcare and not perpetual for-profit war. There always seems to be enough money to continue to finance Raytheon and the military industrial complex as a whole. And it's always asked, how are you going to pay for that when it comes down to medical care? And this includes mental health care and treatment for addiction and recovery. This is something that everybody needs to have full availability and access to. And it is very personal. I am very grateful that I do have that, and uh, I can't imagine a society where everyone does not care that everyone can go and seek that treatment. So that is all. And I hope that if you're not already organizing with March for Medicare for All. That's m4m4all.org. You will look and see, because if there's not something already in your city or state, you can go and put an event up on their website. It doesn't need to be something like a full-on march. It can be a community barbecue or get together, banner waving, car caravan. The sky and the imagination is honestly the limit. It doesn't need to be something overwhelming. It can just be a small gathering. But get involved and share out the word and help us on every social media platform that you're on. Thank you very much. It's good to see you. Thank you for joining. We need to achieve healthcare justice in this country, and myself and Whole Washington and many wonderful people and coalition partners. I guess the last thing I'll say is just a deep thanks to March for Medicare for All for helping to bring together this synthesis of messaging. There's still a whole lot of othering and attempting to break apart healthcare justice organizers into state level and national level. Everybody who is organizing at the state level are also National Improved Medicare for All organizers. We are working every single angle on every front to try to push and to pressure this. The more community, the thing about state organizing is the more community that we bring and the more face-to-face contact that we're getting, which is what we're doing with I-1362, our Washington State Ballot Initiative, is we have the potential to interact with hundreds of thousands of human beings, with voters. And after the blanket of propaganda that was laid down during the 2020 presidential primaries, because that's really what that entire primary was the corporate media and the corporations, the insurance and pharma that sponsor them, and all of the politicians that are in their pockets who were also running for president. They were really running to put across a heavy layer of fear-mongering and propaganda against National Improved Medicare for All. And I will say, so far in my signature gathering, although we're in the early stages of I-1362 here in Washington State, I will say I have a little bit of a notion that I think some of that messaging has in fact permeated people's mindsets. So please do me a favor. If you see people undermining wholewashington.org, undermining people that are getting involved at the local level and trying to build community, which also builds towards National Improved Medicare for All, please do keep that context in mind, that we actually need to be out in our communities, interfacing with voters, educating people, because some of these people, all they've had is the corporate media propaganda that's being disseminated. And the last thing I'll leave you with is please be following at Kenny Ballantyne, healthcare.movie, because he's also going to be, he's a documentarian who is making this movie on the healthcare justice movement, and he will be covering several of these marches. He will be in Seattle, and there will be another documentarian who will be in DC and also in LA. And so as part of this whole picture, if you go to his website and look at the work that he's doing, you'll see coming up soon that he has interviewed Wendell Potter, who some of you may know is a former PR Cigna, I believe it is, insurance executive. And so he's written books, whistleblowing and telling everybody this is actually what we do as PR special. This is what the insurance lobby does, is pay PR people to come up with the talking points that are then repeated and repeated and repeated on, on corporate media and kind of disseminated throughout all of the structures that are entrenched and protecting the corrupt establishment. And this includes the corruption within the Democratic Party and both corporately owned parties. Okay, thank you very much for joining today, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. July 24th, mark it on your calendars. Look up the nearest event near you. That's m4m4all.org. Thank you very much.